All right, welcome in during the bye week. Who's ready for a 49ers roster update? We might even call it a 49ers roster reset. And I want to center this around Chase Young. 49ers picked him up right around midseason before the trade deadline from Washington. He's had a very positive impact on this defensive line, but he hasn't been a superstar so far. In fact, he's number 29 out of 64 qualifying edge rushers and pass rushing productivity. So he's in that upper half of edge rushers. The 49ers have definitely benefited from getting an above average bookend to Nick Bosa. But I think that Chase Young can still take things up another level for the 49ers. And guess what? He's going to have to now because Clelin Ferrell is going to miss at least one game for San Francisco. Ferrell hurt his knee in the regular season finale against the Los Angeles Rams. So Chase Young, former defensive rookie of the year, is going to have a bigger presence on early base downs. I think one of the areas where Chase Young has actually exceeded the 49ers expectations has been in run defense, and that's big now that Ferrell is out because Clelin Ferrell was the run defense specialist in those base packages to set that edge. So now Chase Young is going to have to take more of those snaps, and with more snaps, the 49ers hope that they're going to see some better pass rushing production as well. 3 sacks so far for Chase. But I think that the acquisition that the 49ers made essentially for a bag of chips from Washington before the trade deadline, I think it really has a chance to start paying dividends for the 49ers now. It's not that he's been bad, but it's been that he can still be better. And I'm very, very excited to see what happens next with Chase Young and the 49ers. So this is the 49ers roster update. This is a look at where this entire team is. I think that time for a reset is right now. What better time for a reset than on the Wednesday of the bye week for the 49ers? They're back in the facility today doing some individual stuff. They're going to be out practicing tomorrow and Friday. They're going to have the weekend off. And I'm guessing there'll be a bonus practice for the 49ers on Monday. And then the week we'll see if there's a bonus practice Monday. It's going to depend on when they play, right? In the postseason, because it could be Saturday or Sunday of the following weekend. We might not know until Monday. Oh my goodness. Breaking news. The Seahawks just fired Pete Carroll. This is not a drill. My goodness. Okay, hold on. Let me make a little text title here. Seahawks fire Pete Carroll. This is going to take over the show. We might even have to change the title. The Seahawks have fired Pete Carroll. I am just now getting to Twitter. Mike, let me know that. And I trust Mike. Pete Carroll is out as the Seahawks coach. This was just a day or two after Pete Carroll said he's 72 years old. Pete Carroll said that he was feeling good and he wanted to continue coaching, that he wasn't slowing down at all. So Adam Schefter reports a shocker in Seattle. Pete Carroll is expected to be out as the Seahawks head coach per sources. He could still remain in the organization, but not as the head coach. So not a technical firing, I guess, from the organization, but a firing from the head coach job. Anytime that somebody has won a Super Bowl for you, the only Super Bowl in franchise history, it is really tough to outright oust him, although it has been 10 years since Seattle won that Super Bowl. So major shakeup in the NFC West. Pete Carroll is a Bay Area native. He went to College of Marin, University of the Pacific, and Stockton after that. Was the 49ers defensive coordinator in 1995 and 1996 under George Seifert. The 49ers have modeled their defense after the Seattle-style defenses of Pete Carroll, and that was a descendant of the George Seifert 49ers defenses, running the 4-3 with the elephant and the Leo. The 49ers have evolved over the years, ever since Robert Saleh, who was a Pete Carroll lieutenant, was their defensive coordinator. They don't have the Leo anymore. They've got a bigger defensive end because they want to set a hard edge on both sides, but still there's a lot of influence here, right? And it goes all the way back to Pete Carroll's time with the 49ers back in 1995 and 1996. He became public enemy number one for the 49ers back when Jim Harbaugh was San Francisco's coach. Harbaugh and Carroll went at it in college, Stanford and USC. Obviously, the Seahawks beat the 49ers in that NFC Championship game, January of 2014. But on the same weekend, just 2 days removed from Jim Harbaugh winning a college national championship, Pete Carroll is fired from his Seahawks head coaching position. That is crazy. The world of football somehow always brings us these full circle stories. Carroll won a ton at USC, had the nation's preeminent program there. Harbaugh showed up at Stanford, knocked USC off of their Pac-10 at the time throne. Then Harbaugh and Carroll both left to the NFL. Harbaugh won at first against Carroll. Harbaugh saw a lot of success early on against Carroll in 2011 and into 2012. But then Pete Carroll really started. Well, they beat him once. The Niners beat the Seahawks once in 2013, but Carroll got the last laugh. Harbaugh left after the 49ers fired him, or they mutually parted ways in 2014. Carroll stayed aboard, backed Russell Wilson, not the Legion of Boom. Richard Sherman left to the 49ers. Carroll's been there for 10 years since they won the Super Bowl, but now the Seahawks have moved Pete Carroll out of at least the head coaching position. Carroll was I would think the second longest tenured NFL coach, right? Behind Bill Belichick. Oh, Mike Tomlin might have been probably the third longest tenured NFL coach behind Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin. That makes Kyle Shanahan, Mike, if you can answer this for me, where's Kyle Shanahan in terms of the longest tenured head coaches? Let me look this up. Longest tenured NFL coaches. Let us see. Belichick with the Patriots, 2000 to present. So that's 24 years. Tomlin for the Steelers from 2007 to present, 17 years. John Harbaugh with the Ravens, 16 years, 2008 to present. So I forgot about John Harbaugh. He's been around the Ravens for a while. Pete Carroll with the Seahawks was tenured for 14 years. It was the fourth longest until now. Andy Reid with the Chiefs, 11 years, 2013 to present. And then Sean McDermott got hired by the Bills the same year that Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan got hired by the Rams and the 49ers, respectively. So you're going to have Kyle Shanahan now at number 5, the fifth longest tenured coach in the league. That's going to be my tweet right now. Kyle Shanahan is now the fifth longest tenured coach in the NFL, tied with Sean McVay and Sean McDermott. And Bill Belichick, we're still waiting to see what happens with him in New England, right? Bill Belichick is technically still with the Patriots, but that might not last beyond this offseason. The Carroll move, though, it comes as a major, major surprise. I agree, though, that Seattle hadn't really been moving in the right direction. This was supposed to be a breakthrough season for them, and it definitely wasn't a breakthrough season for them. They did not close the gap with the 49ers as some prognosticators had thought that they would. So we will Belichick 24 years. Wow. Mike Tomlin, 17 years with the Steelers. John Harbaugh, 16 years with the Ravens. Pete Carroll was with the Seahawks for 14 years, but Andy Reid moves up to number 4 now. 11 years with the Chiefs, and Shanahan, McVay, and McDermott, 7 years. Unbelievable. Well, let the comment section go off on that one. I'm going to check out some of the comments as soon as I send off this tweet. Andy Reid with the Chiefs. Toss in 49ers in there. Wow. All right, what do you guys think? Kenny Hamilton, Carroll will likely be an exec with the Seahawks. He is 72 years old. He started to age a little bit here in the past few years, but I mean, he still runs around and catches passes and throws passes during training camp. So, all right, Pete Carroll's got the Bay Area genes, right? So he's healthy. Marin County, he's is stayed active. Good for him. It's just he's become such a fixture there in Seattle because I mean it's been over a decade. It's been what 14 years, as we said, since 2010. He joined the year before Jim Harbaugh joined the 49ers. So, and it's been a while. The 49ers have gone through several coaches since then. So Carroll's first season, 2010, was the year before Harbaugh took over in 2011. So Singletary was the 49ers coach in 2010. Harbaugh came in 2011. Week one of that season, the 49ers scored 2 special teams touchdowns. Ted Ginn on returns. That was the last time the 49ers have had a punt return. So the 49ers have not had a punt return for a touchdown since the first game of Pete Carroll's second season. And Pete Carroll is now no longer the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. So it just gives you an idea of the time frame there. Harbaugh was with the 49ers from 2011 to 2014. That coincided with the meteoric rise of the Seattle Seahawks and the Legion of Boom. Seattle won the Super Bowl in 2013, and that was the closest the 49ers well, I guess the 49ers got closer in 2012, but the 49ers, that was the closest the 49ers would get for several years, right? For in 2013, when they lost to Seattle on the Richard Sherman tip and the Malcolm Smith interception, the Seahawks went on to win 40-8 against the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. The following season, Seattle went back to the Super Bowl, but lost to Brady when they didn't hand off to Marshawn Lynch, and Malcolm Butler had the interception. So it really was downhill from there for Seattle. They were close to winning back-to-back, but that moment seemed to break the momentum of that franchise. A couple years after that, they had to start deciding how they would manage the salary cap and who they would back monetarily. They decided to back Russell Wilson at quarterback and not the Legion of Boom. Remember Earl Thomas flipping off the Seattle sideline after he got hurt in Arizona. Richard Sherman got hurt in the same place when he tore his Achilles in 2017. Sherman would sign with the 49ers in 2018. I think that marked a big fracture point of the old days for Seattle. But Russell Wilson kept on playing well at the quarterback position, and the 49ers were very threatened by the Seahawks in 2019 when Dre Greenlaw had to make that stop on Jacob Hollister right at the goal line to secure the 1 seed in the division for the 49ers. Marshawn actually came out of retirement for that game. I don't know if he was technically retired, but remember Marshawn Lynch just showed up out of shape, scored a touchdown against the 49ers in that week. It was a week 17 game that year, 2019. Wild times. The Seahawks actually won the division in the COVID year in 2020. But by 2021, the Rams had usurped them. The 49ers had usurped them again. 49ers won the division in 2022. And even though the Seahawks were supposed to make a resurgence this season, they did not. Crazy times. I got to change the title here. Pete Carroll done. Wow. So the Shanahan is now the 5th longest tenured coach in the NFL. Mike Vrabel to Seattle, somebody said. I could see that happening. The coaching carousel is getting fun. Steve Wilkes is also going to be interviewing here. There's been a request to interview Steve Wilkes. Now, the more established names with a lot of head coaching experience that there are in the cycle. So Belichick is done with New England, and obviously Carroll now done as head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. It's going to be tougher for somebody like Steve Wilkes, obviously, to compete for a head coaching spot. Wild. Robert Saleh came from that Seattle tree to the 49ers, and now he's the head coach of the New York Jets. All right, anyway, I'm going to send off one more tweet, then we're going to take our quick look at the 49ers roster. I'm going to give you guys a quick peek at the 49ers roster while I send this. There you go. This is the depth chart on the roster. They actually have a spot or two for a practice squad addition here, given injuries to practice squad defensive backs. What a wild ride the Pete. What a wild ride the Pete Carroll era was, especially in relation to the 49ers. The 49ers went through what? They had Singletary in 2010, Harbaugh 2011 to 2014. Then they moved on to Tom Sula. That's the third coach. Chip Kelly, Kyle Shanahan. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 49ers had 5 coaches. Had 5 different head coaches over Carroll's tenure in Seattle. From Singletary to Shanahan. '13 season NFC title game was a classic. 2019 week 17, narrowest margin ever. What else was there in 49ers Seahawks? There was a playoff game, another one between them, the two teams last year. Those weren't particularly close. By the end, the 49ers had run laps around the Seattle Seahawks. And I think that's why Seattle has felt that they needed to make a change. Carroll's 4-3 defense, which he refined as the 49ers DC in 1995 to 1996. Maybe not refined, which he partly developed, being the original model of this SF regime's defense. Carroll's tenure as Seattle head coach finished 2 days after Jim Harbaugh wins a college national title. That might have to be a separate tweet from me, but I'm going to put this up on the screen for you guys. What a wild ride the Pete Carroll era was, especially in relation to the 49ers. 49ers had 5 different head coaches over Carroll's tenure in Seattle, from Singletary to Shanahan. 2013 season NFC title game was a classic. 2019 week 17, narrowest margin ever. Carroll's 4-3 defense, which he partly developed as the 49ers defensive coordinator in 1995-96, would end up being the original model of this San Francisco regime's defense via Robert Saleh as defensive coordinator. Carroll's tenure as Seattle head coach finished 2 days after Jim Harbaugh wins a college national title. Wild, wild times indeed. All right, we're going on to the 49ers roster. Let's go through this. I started talking about Chase Young, and then this Pete Carroll news dropped. Chase Young, number 29 of 64 qualifying edge rushers in pass rushing productivity. So you take a look at the defensive line here. The 49ers have Cleveland Farrell now hurt. So I could shade Farrell in pink on this. Wrong color. So Farrell had been bookending Bosa, and maybe I could put Farrell on the other side here. Let's fix this. Let's put Randy Gregory on the Bosa backup side and Cleveland Farrell over here because it just makes more sense to illustrate how the 49ers rotations will work. With Farrell out at least a game, Chase Young is going to have a higher snap load because you're not going to see as much rotation at this defensive end spot. Robert Beal Jr. is playing really good football right now, and he's impressing the 49ers with his get-off in practice. Speaking of a lighter Leo edge rusher, I know the 49ers have generally gone away from that mold from the old Pete Carroll days, but they still have a lighter edge rusher for pass rushing situations. I think Beal's going to be active during the playoffs. I think he's impressed the 49ers enough, especially with Farrell down for at least a game. Beal's going to be active, but I don't think he's an early down run guy. I think he could be good pass rushing reinforcement in case the 49ers need it later in games on third downs. But anyway, Chase Young is going to be in a very, very featured role now because there is no splitting of duties with Cleveland Farrell. It's Young and Bosa, the Buckeye bookend for the San Francisco 49ers. Moving on, we can go through this position by position. If you look at the linebacker position for the 49ers, full health there. That's great for them. I thought they had some good opportunities to give D. Winters and Jalen Graham, the rookies, some playing time this year. It's unless they really need them to be rotational defensive players, though, they will not be. Demetrius Flanagan-Foles had a nice tackle for loss against the Rams. He's the fourth linebacker for this team, and the 49ers are happy to have a veteran in Oren Burks back as the third linebacker following a little bout with knee tendonitis. Oren Burks is also a really good special teams player. Defensive back is where the 49ers injury reinforcements come in really handy. You look at Ambry Thomas, who should be back at practice this week, coming off of hand surgery. That's really important because Jason Verrett is now on practice squad injured reserve. Taylor Hawkins right here is probably going to be on practice squad injured reserve too because he's going to need surgery for his wrist. Taylor Hawkins hurt his wrist. So what we'll do is Hawkins is a safety, but we can move him over into one of these IR spots. I'm just going to assume that they're IRing him. What that does is it opens up another practice squad spot for the 49ers. With Verrett going to IR and his season being over, the 49ers had one practice squad spot open, which they're planning to use on a veteran defensive back. And with Taylor Hawkins presumably also going to IR because he needs wrist surgery, the 49ers will have a second practice squad spot open. And maybe they go to another safety since safety is a little bit thin right now. As you can see, Jair Brown, he's supposed to be back this week. So is Deshaun Gibson. Brown is a knee sprain. Gibson is a quad contusion. So you're going to get both of the guys who had been starting at safety back. You're not going to get Hufanga back. And Odom, he should be coming back as well. His practice window is open. So you're going to stock up at safety in a way that you haven't been stocked up in a few weeks. However, you have lost depth in Taylor Hawkins, who had that diving interception for the 49ers against the Rams, and you now do have two practice squad spots. So they were already looking at Cam Hayward. They worked them out, former Pro Bowl cornerback to replace Verrett. Hayward, 34 years old. And we'll see if they bring in a safety to replace Taylor Hawkins or if they use that practice squad spot on someone else. That's how the 49ers defense looks. I think that rest is obviously key here. Rest is going to get that secondary, which you saw a lot of pink shading there. It's going to get that secondary the closest as it can be to full health. And I think that just fatigue is something that you want to alleviate from the defensive line and the linebacker position. And given the fact that you're going to be one guy short in the rotation, a key member short, Cleveland Farrell, for at least a game, it's important that the rest of that defensive line gets fresh. Sebastian Joseph Day has had some good work. He played a lot against the Rams, learning a new style of play and yet to play in the 49ers type of system. So Sebastian Joseph Day could be a factor for the 49ers on the interior as part of the rotation moving forward. Then we go to the offense, and I could take off the Sam Darnold color coding and the Trent Williams color coding, because those are just confirmed to play on Sunday. So I keep this cheat moving. Jawan Jennings off of concussion protocol. He's cleared. We can take him off of the injury list. Look at that. There are no pink shades on the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers. Maybe Christian McCaffrey, technically. He's going to miss practice this week, but minor calf strain. We all expect him to be back next week. You've got a good, healthy QB room entering the postseason. Darnold played really, really well on Sunday. The more you watch the tape from Sunday's game, the more you realize, damn, Darnold was good. Darnold was efficient. 49ers had to feel good with their backup quarterback situation, and Sam Darnold. Brandon Allen's going to be the emergency 3 heading into the postseason. Christian McCaffrey won the NFL rushing title by a country mile. McCaffrey slotted in there as the top running back. Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason behind him. They turned to McNichols with a temporary elevation for the Rams game. They still have elevations available for Ty Davis-Price in case they need them heading into the postseason. Congratulations to All-Pro fullback Kyle Juszczyk. This is the first year that the All-Pro team from the AP is going to have a fullback on it, and Juszczyk is going to be that All-Pro fullback undoubtedly. So he's been waiting a long time for this moment. He's been in the league for 10 years? Kyle Juszczyk is maybe 11 years. Kyle Juszczyk is going to have his first AP All-Pro coming right up. Receiver position, looking healthy, looking good. So healthy because they brought Ray McCloud back that Danny Gray, they have until next Wednesday to activate him. That 3-week practice window is open for him, and he's healthy, and he's been healthy for a while, but there's no reason to activate Danny Gray unless you need him, and right now the 49ers don't need him, and unless somebody gets hurt at practice, they won't need Danny Gray. So Danny Gray's activation window will very likely expire, and this is who the 49ers are going with at the receiver position. Ayuk, Samuel, Jennings off of concussion protocol, Bell, McLeod, and Chris Conley, the 6th wide receiver. Tight end room, Kittle, Willis, Werner. They put Ross Dwelly on IR. I should add Ross Dwelly to IR down here. I don't have him on that full list yet, but Dwelly is going to be out for at least 4 weeks for the 49ers. Offensive line, I think you saw a pretty steep drop-off once the 2 tackles exited, Williams and McKivitz. McKivitz actually led the 49ers in total snaps this year, over 1,100 total snaps between offense and special teams. So he's been an Iron Man for this football team. You look at I think the way he's developed over the course of the year, settled into, he's been dependable at that right tackle spot. He hasn't been, I wouldn't say he's been good, but you know what you're going to get from Colton McKivitz. He's not a wild card anymore. He will struggle a little bit in straight drop pass protection, but Brock Purdy is one of the elite quarterbacks in this game, so he's been able to work around it to near historic efficiency. So as long as McKivitz stays healthy and Williams stays healthy, you like where you're at tackle. I think Brendel has gotten pushed back a little bit this year at center, but he's gotten better over the year. Banks is having a nice season, especially when he's healthy. He has rid himself of that turf toe condition. And Feliciano's been really damn good, especially in run blocking, to the point where he's naturally played a ton since week 10. But if everybody's healthy, I think they're definitely on the path to at least platoon with Spencer Burford, who's been the weak link at right guard for the 49ers offensive line. It was important for the 49ers to get some work for Ben Barch at center in week 18. Their backup center is Feliciano in case Brendel goes down, but now they have an emergency third in Ben Barch on the 53-man roster, which is nice. And the swing tackles or the backup tackles, Jalen Moore and Matt Pryor. So what you're looking at is the 49ers offense, which has been historically explosive, historically efficient, extra time to scheme people up. They get to watch this weekend and rest and see who they're going to play. I really don't know who they're going to play. I think that obviously the Rams are playing really good football right now. The Rams might threaten the 49ers more than any other team. But if you go by point spread probability, the likeliest opponent is the Eagles. And the Eagles are completely staggering. I don't think the 49ers would mind hosting an Eagles team that is just bleeding out right now at all. Could also be the Bucks, and it could also be the Green Bay Packers. They can't play the Cowboys or the Lions. Those two teams would are not, it's not a mathematical possibility for the 49ers to play either of those two teams, because as the 1 seed, the 49ers will play the highest remaining seed in the first round of these playoffs. If you're just joining us, Seahawks have ridded themselves of Pete Carroll, at least as their head coach. That, though, is not really pertinent news for the 49ers at the moment. They're getting ready for the playoffs. I talked about that for a good 10 minutes. The College of Marin alum, Pete Carroll, though, is no longer, and the former 49ers defensive coordinator, is no longer going to be roaming the sidelines in Seattle. This, though, is the 49ers roster update for the playoffs, where it is Chase Young's time to shine. I'm going to be happy to answer a couple questions, and then we'll go from there. The 49ers clipped the Eagles. They broke the Eagles. They clipped their wings, says the Werewolves of Sanger. I don't think I was never unrealistic with Moody. He's made 84% of his kicks. He set an NFL record since the extra point line got pushed back with consecutive made extra points, was 60. He's right in the middle of the pack as a rookie. He's not a bad kicker. He's not a great kicker. And most importantly, I know Robbie Gould never missed in the playoffs. Well, neither is Jake Moody. We don't know how he's going to be in the postseason. So, I mean, this team is so good. The 49ers just need a kicker that's not terrible. And so far, he hadn't been terrible. He's been average on the field goals, and he's been great on the extra points. Unfortunately, people have short memories, and they remember that he missed one against or missed a field goal and then missed the extra point against the Rams. But we have to wait and see how he does in the playoffs. Like, this is still unwritten. Yeah, it is tiresome how many different all-pro teams they have. It seems like everybody has to release their all-pro team. Traditionally, only the AP All-Pro team was the one that people talked about, but even that is just voted on by writers, and even that has its biases. There was one today where, at least one, where Kelsey got voted over Kittle, which is ridiculous because George Kittle this year, with his performance, yards per route run, the blocking, obviously head and shoulders above anything that Travis Kelsey did. All right. Sounds good. Somebody said Moody's at 68% field goals on the road. Well, the 49ers don't play a road game in the NFC playoffs. They're at Levi's Stadium. So, and Levi's going to be tricky too. But the key for the 49ers was that he only kicked 10 field goals between the Minnesota game and the end of the season, because this offense was just dominating people. Continue dominating people on offense, and the kicker position is not going to be needed as much, right? As long as you can make the extra points, because you're going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns. That's what's important for the 49ers. And yes, final thought, Armstead will help immensely. I can't believe I didn't mention Armstead along the defensive line when we were talking about them. That was the news of yesterday. Eric Armstead should be back at practice this week, and it's going to be huge for the 49ers. All right, everybody, take care. Thanks for joining. We'll talk to you soon.